Hello, fellow book lovers, both readers and writers. I am Matty Dalrymple. I'm the author of the Ann Kinnear Suspense Novels and Suspense Shorts and the Lizzy Ballard Thrillers, and I also write, speak, podcast, and consult on the writing craft and the publishing voyage as the indie author. And this is my video series, What I Learned, where I ask authors 2 questions related to their latest book. What did they learn from that book that they would like to share with their fellow writers? And what did they learn that they'd like to share with their fellow readers? And I am here today with Megan Haskell. Hey, Megan, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. To give our viewers a little bit of background on you, Megan Haskell pens tales of myth, magic, and mayhem featuring kick-ass heroines and monsters of every size. She also co-founded the Excellent Author's Wheel, and I added excellent. Megan didn't put that in her bio herself. The Excellent Author's Wheel to help writers find clarity, simplify their process, and implement a strategy that will lead to successful and sustainable author careers. And her latest book is AETHER Crossed. And so
Yes.
I am here today asking Megan the 2 What I Learned questions, starting with what did you learn that you would like to share with your fellow writers?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me on the show. This is fun. I always enjoy chatting with you. So I finished AETHER Crossed. I actually finished the draft probably back in the springtime. But what I learned while I was writing this book was that I really need to follow my own creative process. It took me a long time to write this book, in part because I kept trying to do all the best practices, all the things that everybody else says that you should do. And it didn't work for me. You know, I'm not a great outliner. I get stuck and then blocked. And I'm like, I don't know what they're going to do next because I'm not in the story. So that was really challenging. And then trying to just full discovery, right? Be like, well, I'm just going to go where it tells me. Well, then I just get sucked into research. So I had to really find my own process and how to be consistent and how to get the work done, how to focus my research, how to follow my ideas and let that creativity flow. Because that's where I started writing, was as a creative outlet. It was the thing that I did on the train because I had a huge commute and a really number crunching corporate job, and I needed that outlet. So I had to return to that for this book. And so that was the really kind of aha moment for me. It was like, no, just do your thing and it'll come out and it'll be fine.
Yeah, one thing that I've heard a couple of people say, and I think it's very true, is that writers tend to talk about you're a plotter or a pantser, but we all do all of it. You know, if you were just a plotter, then one's books would feel very kind of cold and clinical. And if one was just a pantser, they would be all over the place. And we all do some of that at every point along the way. And I actually was just talking to Art Taylor on the podcast, and he had a third category called percolator, which I thought was great. I'm definitely
like
percolator. That. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That's great.
Yeah, but mixing those approaches in a way that makes sense for you.
Right, exactly. And using the tools that you need to get the work done for you. But no, I think you're absolutely right. I think it is a spectrum, and discovery writers, I think the best ones anyway, still have a firm understanding of structure. They just don't write it out in advance. And I think outliners who maybe have, big, deep, complicated outlines are often still willing to make changes as they go, as they think of better ideas. So it's definitely a spectrum. And I think that's one of the things that we really try to teach at the Author Wheel, is that everybody's different and every path is both unique and okay. You have to find what works for you. And so finding the tools, going out, getting that information, trying new things, experimenting and finding that process is what will really keep your story moving forward over the long term. And ultimately your author career. It helps keep you from getting burned out, I think, too.
It's hard to know what that point is where you can say, I've tried this and it's not working for me, or I haven't given this long enough, or I have to recognize that this isn't going to work all the time. Was there a moment when you had that realization, like an aha moment where you said, okay, I see that trying to, pick up the latest fad book and following the step-by-step rules isn't going to work for me?
Yes. So I was trying to use the 3-story method to begin with, which is Jay Thorne and Zach Bohannon, I think, right?
Yep.
That's right. And so I was trying to use their method, and it's a great method. Don't get me wrong. But I realized I was getting so wrapped up in the triangles and in making the little arcs and then the bigger arcs and all this stuff that I wasn't actually writing anymore. And that was the aha moment for me. It was when I was spending more time focused on the how rather than actually the what or the story itself. And so that was my aha moment, but I think it's different for everybody. And I think it's hard. I mean, that's a hard answer to say, well, have I given it enough time? Have I not given enough time? What is enough time? Have I really done it the way that they say and followed their structure, their plan, or, and it's a self-assessment and it's hard. There's no right answer. But for me, it was like, yeah, if I'm not getting words on the page, if I'm focusing more on the how to write rather than the what to write or the story itself, it wasn't worth it anymore. I was getting too much in my head.
Yeah. Yeah. This is just coincidental and a reach to relate to it, but I had been trying out a social media publishing scheduler, and I was publishing to platforms I normally wouldn't because I had this buffer of a tool, TikTok being one of them. And I decided I didn't like the tool. So I thought, well, maybe I'll just go try posting on TikTok directly. And honestly, I found that if I opened TikTok, I had to close it within seconds because I found it so annoying. And I thought, this is like the clearest signal I could possibly get that I shouldn't be on TikTok. Like, if I can't stand looking at it as a consumer for more than 15 seconds, I probably shouldn't bother posting it as an author.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. That's how I am with Twitter. I can't stand, or X or whatever. Yeah. I can't stand it. Like, I finally completely shut down my account because it was like I'd go in there and I'd get overwhelmed and I'd get kind of like sort of grossed out by what some of the tweets were and the comments were, and they weren't relevant. And then I was getting all these ads and it was just, ugh. So I ran away.
Yeah.
So I am not on Twitter.
Yeah. That gut feeling of, is something going to be right for you or not, whether that's a social media platform or a writing approach, I think is a good red flag. Like,
yeah,
I think you get a different feeling if you're saying, I don't get this quite yet, than if your gut is saying, this is really not for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree.
So what about the other What I Learned question, which is, what did you learn that you would like to share with your fellow readers?
So this one was fun, actually. So I decided to first launch Aether Crossed on Kickstarter. And I did that for a few reasons. Number one, I just kind of wanted to experiment and test the waters and see. I mean, you see all these authors. If you're in the indie author community, you see all these authors doing great things with Kickstarter, producing these gorgeous books and making seemingly a lot of money doing it, right? So I wanted to kind of test the waters, stick my toe in, see how it all went. So I already knew how to make a paperback because I've done it for years with all the books, right? But what I wanted to do was make an experience for the readers. And so I did that in a few different ways. I hired an artist to create chapter headers. We talked about the art. She did stickers for me. I made some swag for the book. I made handmade bookmarks that are themed for the book. So you could get this whole package. And then in addition to that, I have a friend who's so she's a bartender. So the quick pitch on the series is that Lil is a bartender in Laguna Beach, California, who works at a tiki bar, and she can see the demon on your shoulder, right? So I've never been a bartender, so I needed to hire one or find one. And luckily, I had a friend from college who has been a longtime bartender and cocktail historian, and he has a YouTube channel, and he teaches classes on cocktails. So he created a menu for me so you can drink alongside the characters. And then we hosted a cocktail class on YouTube for Aether Bound, and we're actually going to do Aether Crossed. I'm crossing my fingers that'll come out in November. And I did a one-on-one, so you could, at the top tier, you could pay for an hour with me, right? Like, we'd get on Zoom and we'd have a coffee or a drink or whatever and just chat. And I found that was really exciting, both for me as the author, but also for the readers who were able to really kind of dig in and get more than just a story. They got an experience. And mine was a small Kickstarter. I have big plans for future Kickstarters that are going to be even bigger and better. But for readers, if you're not looking at Kickstarter for books right now, especially for your favorite authors, right, then you should be, because they're offering just amazing. Authors are coming up with these crazy cool projects that are just so much fun and so different and so unique. And they're limited edition hardback books with foil covers and colored illustrations and, experiences kind of like mine, or all these different things. And so for me, that was kind of, again, an aha moment where it was like, oh yeah, this is why people are doing Kickstarter. It's not just because, as an author, it's a new audience and you want to make money. That's part of it, sure. I mean, we all want to make money. It's our job, right? But it's also being able to engage with and interact with and reach readers with a new experience so that you can have that sort of relationship that you don't get just by posting your book on Amazon or wherever.
Yeah, well, we were talking before we started recording about doing in-person events, which I think for both of us, we had on sabbatical for a while. And I think readers maybe don't realize how energizing, hopefully energizing, 99% of the time it's energizing, those kind of interactions can be, because sometimes you do feel like you're just putting the books out there and it's kind of, shouting into the void. And it's super cool to have that kind of interaction with people face to face, even virtually face to face.
Absolutely, 100%. So another event that I do, I put on pause for COVID, but I came back to this last year and will hopefully do again next year and on into the future, is WonderCon, which is it's run by the same people that run San Diego Comic-Con, but it's in Anaheim and it's in the spring. And I realized this year, as the first year back, how much I had missed that interaction with readers and that instant feedback. You don't get that on Amazon. Sure, you post reviews, and that's definitely helpful. I'm not knocking reviews. We all need reviews. Please leave reviews of my books if you read them. But even more is that face-to-face instant interaction where you can see what the joy, hopefully, that you're bringing to readers. I had one reader, a teenage girl, who was so excited I was back. She was like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy. She came out, we took a picture, and she bought more books. She actually bought another set of books because she had lent them out to friends and they'd gotten a little messed up. And she was like, I have to have clean copies. So, that kind of reaction just, that's the be all end all. That is why I write.
Yes.
Right there. That's why I write.
Well, I can't think of a nicer note to end our conversation on, as inspiration both for writers and readers. So, Megan, thank you so much for coming on the segment. Please let everyone know where they can find out more about you and your books and everything you do online.
Sure, absolutely. So my home online is meganhaskell.com. It's pretty easy to remember. I do sell all my books direct in all formats that I have available, including signed paperbacks. So check out that. My books are also available wide, so you can go on any platform if you prefer that. So no big deal. But meganhaskell.com is my main home online. I also want to just give out a little shout out to my brand new YouTube channel because I have started reading chapter by chapter AETHER Bound, book 1. And so that's going every week, a new chapter posts. So if you're interested in hearing me read unprofessionally my book, you can go to YouTube and you can find that there. And then for the writers out there, I also want to give a little plug to the Author Wheel. We are at authorwheel.com and we have a podcast as well. So if you listen to the Indie Author Podcast, I hope you will also come and listen to the Author Wheel podcast. I work with my partner, Greta Boris, and each week we post interviews. It's either an interview, typically an interview, and then sometimes just a conversation between the two of us about a different topic. And then for Nano, we are doing tips to help you get through the month of November.
Oh, it all sounds great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.